Hello and welcome to this week's Beginner's Guide. We're going to be talking about Trencher Spam and Age of Wonders Planetfall. My name is Winsley and I am joined by two guests this week. We have Ninjew and Orange Lex 44. Both of them have Twitch channels. I know Orange Lex has posted a couple things to YouTube, and I also know that they both play a lot of multiplayer. I know that because I've played with them before, and I'm going to be playing with them again actually this weekend. If you want to check that out, we'll be playing, I think, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, maybe plus or minus an hour. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you both about Trencher Spam. It sounds like you both have a lot more experience with it than me. Maybe less than Mr. No, but that's all right.
That is true.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing all of your thoughts on mods and commander perks and things like that. Just so people know what we're going to be going over on in the video, we're going to talk just generally about some tips, some thoughts we have on the whole strategy, and go through an actual combat, show off how the units work in combat. After that, we'll talk a little bit about the commander perks, and we'll then move on to the secret techs, and the last thing we'll talk about are some of the mods. So yeah, is there anything just generally either of you want to say about Trencher Spam, or what makes trenchers so disgusting?
Okay, well,
I'll let Ninja go first.
Every single thing about trenchers is really, really good. So, let's just kind of really quickly do a big overview of the unit. Go ahead and click on one.
Yeah, can you pull up the unit screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, its stats are all kind of ridiculous. The HP, its base stats are it has 40 HP. This one has 48 because it's veteran. You can see the spike gun to 16 damage, which doesn't seem that bad, or it doesn't seem that good. I'll get into that in probably just a minute. Notice it has 3 armor. This is a range 7 unit with 3 armor. For comparison, Vanguard troopers have 40 HP, 1 armor. So this thing has 2 more armor. Now it does have exposed flanks. Everyone wants to bring up the exposed flanks. Exposed flanks doesn't matter. If you're a good player, you're not going to get flanked by a unit that gets to move all of its movement and then take a shot. That's not really... Troopers can get flanked, because troopers have to stand still if they want to do all of their damage. So enemy units can maneuver around them. Trenchers are range 7, single action. Trenchers can kite you forever. Trenchers will always be shooting at whatever range they want to be shooting at, because they have the freedom to do that. That's kind of the advantage of a single action attack like trenchers have over repeating attacks like troopers have. Your potential damage is smaller, but your mobility is huge. You just get so much more.
Your practical damage is way higher, right?
Yeah.
I don't have the actual tile numbers memorized. Maybe you do, Ninju, but in order to get the same amount of damage from a repeating unit, you need 2 actions, as opposed to just 1, which is, what is that, an extra 3 or 4 tiles move, something like that?
Yeah, it's so a standard 32 MP unit has 5 tiles of movement plus sprint tiles, which I think is 2 standard?
2 or 3.
Might be 2 or 3, yeah. You can move 1 tile and have 3 actions. You can move 3 tiles and have 2 actions, and you can move 5 tiles and have 1 action. Now, what's really important about the Trencher's attack is that it is 7 range and it is 16 damage. Compare that to any other single action attack. Most single action attack units that have a single action primary, such as the Initiates are only at 5 range. They don't get 7 range. If you're talking about Deadeyes have 7 range. They also have Cumbersome, so they don't get as much movement as the Trenchers do. Engineers, they use shotguns. I don't want to go too much on the shotguns, which is 5 range. Shotguns are 5 range. They're kind of like a secondary weapon, but the point stands is that there's not really any other 7 range single action unit in the game that I can think
of. I think the closest comparison is the truck, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I love about the trenches is that it increases the accuracy, and it increases the damage that the spike
Oh,
gun
yeah,
does, which is
Yeah.
massive.
There's that too.
Allows you to
Yeah,
just
But
sit
I was
we
back.
gonna
haven't
get
even
it.
got to trenches yet. This
I
is
was
just the
saving that
base
for a little
ads.
bit. This is just like we're gonna kind of build up. Is my thinking. We're
Mhm.
gonna start off with the basics. Their basic attack, kind of the most sort of the more unique thing about using them is that they have this single action attack that's 7 range. Again, almost never see that. You almost never see 7 range without some kind of additional downside, which they don't have. They're when you're talking about going from repeating action to single action, generally the rule is you take a repeating attack, say you get 2 attacks instead of 3 attacks, and you give that same amount of damage. So, a trooper does 9 damage, so a single action by this rule would be 18 damage, and the trade-off is
Less range or less mobility.
a trooper could potentially do 27 damage in a single attack in a single turn, but
Wow.
they wouldn't be able to move to do it. And they could do the same damage as an 18 damage attack by moving 3 hexes. An 18 damage 1 AP attack gets to move those additional 2 hexes, but it comes with the trade-off of you don't have the opportunity to do that repeating attack. Now, generally, single action attacks, just going by that simple rule, single action attacks come out to have better value. And the reason for that is getting to move more is usually going to be more valuable than standing still and getting a little extra damage out of it. And the best way I can explain that is think of it like this. Like, here's just a super simple scenario. If you have a unit that steps forward 1 hex and shoots versus a unit that steps forward 5 hexes and shoots, the unit that stepped forward 5 hexes is still probably going to do more damage than the repeating attack unit, just because it's 4 hexes closer. It has so much more accuracy. It has a lot more ability to maneuver itself so that it's going to not have to shoot through cover. It's going to be able to position itself much better so that it's not going to get shot on the follow-up turn. And that's just kind of what makes it much more valuable, is even though on paper you can say that there's like these trade-offs, in reality, in like practical usage, single action attacks are just going to come out better on average because the flexibility that mobility affords is just so powerful.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is that in order to get full value from a repeating attack, the only way that happens is if you force the enemy to come to you. You have to be essentially playing a defensive tactical game plan, or you need to have given up an entire turn to be in position, get shot, and then use your next turn to do the shooting. If you have a single action attack, you can be playing aggressive, you can be playing defensive, you can be just a lot more mobile on the tactical field and not have given anything up. You're at full effectiveness pretty much no matter what you do.
Yeah. So this is the reason why, Trooper has 18 damage, or has 9 damage shots, 2 attacks is 18 damage, Spike Gun does 16 damage. It kind of like, to help keep things a little balanced out, you also shave off a little damage off of the single action attack to help make up for how powerful that additional mobility is. But trenchers ignore that because trenches give them additional damage bonuses. So trenchers are actually hitting pretty far above their weight class, just simply because they can throw down the trench. They get a damage bonus and an accuracy bonus. I think it's 20% damage, 10% accuracy. It might be the other way around.
+3 or +4, depending on how the rounding is going.
We'll check it once we go into combat, but yeah, that's what I saw earlier. It's 20% damage and then 10% accuracy. Pretty massive.
So in reality, trenchers are like, if you look at just 16 damage, it kind of balances out. But once you throw in the trench in there, trenchers are already coming out on top. And that's before we look at any of the other things about the unit. Like I mentioned earlier, they have 2 additional armor over troopers for operating at the same range. They have shield bash, which is like, almost no one is ever going to actually select shield bash and use that ability. It has some niche applications. If you find a time where shield bash is a really good move for you and you use it, I want you to feel really proud of yourself because that's really fun. And it's not something that people are generally going to consider. But the big thing about Shield Bash is just by that attack existing, trenchers get melee overwatch, which is a huge advantage against other units that have to play up close. Of course, melee units, but it's also kind of a soft advantage against like initiates and stuff. It really limits your enemy's ability to move close to you because it makes the hexes around the trencher kind of spaces that they're not going to want to move through, or else they're going to eat. In the best case scenario, they're going to eat 8 damage. You know?
Yeah, a lot of melee units and stuff, they really want to, against what should be a range 7 range unit like the trencher, they like to abuse the fact that they can move right up to you and then slide 1 or 2 tiles to get that flanking shot, and you can't do that against trenchers, because not only are you getting that extra hit in, it's also a knockback attack.
Yeah, and then and going back to the armor, and of course, if you saw the fight, or if you saw the game that we were playing this last weekend and the weekend before,
Yeah, I was going to say.
I kind of made a big deal out of seeing Sinsling's trenchers and going, "What the fuck? These guys have." I'm sorry. What the hell? These guys have 8 armor. That's ridiculous. That's completely ridiculous. And it starts at, and we'll get into like the hero skills and stuff later that makes up the rest of that 8. But it starts at, they have 2 additional armor over troopers. And yeah, sure, they have exposed flanks. If you flank them, they have armor equal to a trooper. So it's just a pure advantage. And again, because of the melee overwatch thing, and because trenchers are like masters of mobility, you're not going to outmaneuver a trencher. It has a 7 range attack, single action, and it's not cumbersome. It's not, if you're playing against a human opponent, they're not generally going to let you flank them, at least not very much. So the exposed flanks doesn't even in practice come up all that often, especially since you've got Shield Bash really limiting your mobility around trenchers.
Yeah. Again, I find that flanking matters a heck of a lot more for melee units, but as we said, trenchers have these inherent advantages against melee units because they have Shield Bash.
Yeah, I did want to mention that as far as I can think of, actually, no, there are some Psyfish that are tier 1 that do psychic damage, but most of the units that do psychic damage, which bypasses armor, are high tier units, and I think in just terms of what it takes to get those on the field, the trencher gives you a lot more value. I mean, psychic damage is super valuable, it's super nice, but it's something that usually goes on the higher tier units, making it not quite as competitive.
There's also like most psi damage is range damage. If you want melee psi, you have enforcers, you have like Kirko initiates, you have heralds of oblivion, and I know there's like 1 or 2 other options, but that's most of it. Transcendence, hidden, overseers, the Syndicate Psi tank that I forget the name of right now.
Right, the Syndicate stuff. Yeah.
Well, besides
range, other than the Enforcer, yeah.
The Psyfish. Most sources of Psi damage are ranged, and yes, that does get past their armor, but they also get trenches. And trenches, so they have against melee units, they have this melee overwatch tool that helps them a lot. Against ranged units, they have trenches, which makes ranged units have less accuracy against them. So they kind of get this inherent protection against all circumstances.
Guaranteed half cover.
Yeah. So even Psyfish are not necessarily going to be slaughtering them as much as you really want them to, or as much as you might really expect, just because they're guaranteed to have cover from every direction.
Mm-hmm. I think the last general tip I wanted to mention is because it's a tier 1 unit, it's really easy to just kind of spam them in all of your cities, especially if you've got enough prospectors going around the map clearing out things, because that's just going to give you lots of free production and energy to play around with.
And absolutely. It's the only T1 co-unit that has a summon. It's a strategic summon as well, which matters a lot more in multiplayer, I think, than single player. But that means that you have essentially a free production line for these guys that you can always just be using your op points to directly summon more of them.
It's
That's
in
a
dredges.
really
Yeah,
good.
deploy trenches.
I like that. Yeah, I found it. But I really like that note about it has a summon.
Mhm. Yeah, and also like you don't. They're a T1 core unit. You don't have to build a barracks from them. If you want to have 18 trenchers, you can build one in every single one of your cities. No additional infrastructure required. You know, it's not the same as getting like 18 Deadeyes or 18 assault bikes or something like that. If you want to spam out a lot of trenchers, which since they have like no weaknesses, they're a very spammable unit, much more so than most other T1 core units. It's so easy to do that because you just tell all of your cities to do it. 4 turns later, boom, you've got an instant army of units that are very, very cost effective.
Right, and I think the buy now option is slightly reduced if you're so inclined, because Devar get that little bonus.
If you even need it, because as you said, prospecting is a huge crutch for for the Devour, and probably I would say the single most powerful economic ability in the game.
Yeah, totally.
And whether you're getting production or the random energy pickups, that all helps to further accelerate your trencher spam.
Okay, I think I'm actually going to auto this one, and yeah, the AI lost a trencher, and that's because I think these guys aren't modded. I can't guarantee that with mods they would get through here unscathed, but I know it would be a heck of a lot easier to manual combat. Do you think either of you could do this combat without mods on your guys and keep yourself from
Yes.
losing anything? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
With a
Yeah.
hero and a bulwark
Well,
question.
Okay, what are the mods on that? Oh, okay. I wanted to know what the mods on that Mega Sow were. That could change things. But
The answer is almost certainly yes, though.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so too, but for simplicity's sake, let's load it up with some mods. I just put a simple little mod on here because when I was fighting Sinsling just 2 days ago, I found the fact that he could just heal up with a free action really, really nasty on these units. They just can sit back and support each other, and that makes it really hard to get into melee range, which I think a lot of these units actually focus on. So
They all, well, maybe not the small pig. That's the only one that is in question, but all the rest are.
I don't understand that. That's because it didn't
Not the
stay
same
back,
result,
right?
because before he had some that were damaged. In this
I
case,
guess that's
exactly
true.
one unit died, and all the rest are full health.
That's
That
sad.
probably happened because you're fighting hopper hounds.
Melee.
So what
It's
tends
all
to
melee
happen?
units.
Yeah, it's all melee units, but also like hopper hounds and mega sows are really they're kind of bursty. Like the hopper hounds can jump from an additional range to just hop on your guy. So a lot of that ends up just being like, did they all jump on the same dude? If so, I can get screwed.
So move these guys forward, but don't use their trench yet because you want that for later, right?
Well,
Yeah.
in this exact fight, you probably could because the AI is all melee units, so you're expecting them to come to you.
So what you would want to
the
do.
AI probably thinks it's stronger because it's got higher quality units on paper.
So here's a really big thing, and just kind of a general thing that you want to do in combat is if you click on the enemy units, and you can look at their movement, and you can like see what their effective attack range is. Like if they move to this distance, what units can they hit? And you do that with a few of them, and then you start saying like, okay, well if 2 or 3 of them can attack the same guy, I'm going to figure that that guy is going to die. So in that case, you'd want to drop down a trench or ideally not be in that position. But you have what's I tend to refer to as like the pre-fight footsies, where you sort of try to position your army in such a way so that you're like 1 hex outside of the enemy's of the enemy's effective range, or their ability to kind of, seriously injure you. And then the turn after that, either you get them to come to you, or you move in on them all at once, which is something that trenchers are super duper good at, by the way, because they have that, again, single action attack, 7 range, no cumbersome or anything. They're really good at, you sit them like right outside an enemy's effective range, and then you run them all forward at the same time in like a really big ball, and they all drop their trenches and shoot, And two things are going on there. One, because they're all 7 range, and they all get to move so close and still have maximum effectiveness, you probably kill 1 or 2 units if you're focus firing in that opening volley. And then number 2, because they all drop their trenches, it's actually pretty difficult for your opponent to, fire back because they're having to hit you through the trenches.
Yeah. It's a good strategy.
That's what's called, we'll call that like the engagement term, or the engagement turn, or
Don't
the
use
alpha
the
strike.
sniper yet. You might be able to kill that unit with your trenches in the back.
Yeah, because the trenches can move all the way forward, right? And then drop down their trenches and shoot.
I think you can maybe be a little more aggressive with that. I think your goal should be to kill the T1 Hopper Hound and the pig. The big pig, not the small pig.
Yeah. You think I can kill that?
Oh, absolutely.
Alright. Tell me how. How do I kill the big pig?
Well, take both of your trenchers and move them. You want to move them probably in front of your other guys.
Yeah.
And then just have them drop trenches and shoot. Remember, the trenches give a firing bonus, and at this point, like, are you going to put your trenches down in a better spot after that? Like, I don't know.
Can you click on the other trencher? I want to see if he can get in a position to shoot at the big pig. No, he can't. Okay, so you're going to want to leave a gap because you think you're going to want.
He can if he goes
from
in the
there.
back
You can,
spot.
yeah. Go there. And then
another neat thing you can do.
The big pig.
Another neat thing you can do here, though, like something I just kind of want to point out. I don't know if this is probably not the best thing. In this situation, not the best move. But if you click on either one of those trenches that you just moved that haven't attacked yet, you can sprint them out of the trench right after they put it down, and then move your sniper into the trench to get the trench bonuses.
Yeah.
So if you're playing, if the enemy's still outside of your effective range, or if you're still outside of the enemy's effective range, but because you have the sniper, the enemy's inside of your effective range, you can safely put down a trench, walk out of it, and then have your sniper move forward into this really good sniper spot.
Before you move that bulwark, take the shot with the back trencher, because it's not 100% accuracy. Nope. To the pig.
Oh, darn it.
Yeah, because he was the only one that could shoot at the pig, right? Whereas you had other units that could shoot at that Hopper Hound. Okay, that's fine.
Slow or cuss this
so
one?
don't shoot. Don't move the bulwark yet. Now check your other 2 units before you look at the bulwark. Okay, so he can shoot at the pig.
Honestly, in this situation, what I would do is I would use the other trencher to kill that other Hopper Hound. I think you just go ahead and do that. The trencher's not making any other moves. And then, shoot the pig with your sniper, because I don't think, again, you're not making any other moves with that guy.
You might actually end up concussing the pig.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. Either that spot that you're in, you would either concuss or you would agile overwatch. Either one works. Important note about disables for anyone who's maybe fairly new at this game. If you concuss the pig, that's the same as killing the pig for 1 turn. Like, because you concuss the pig, you have the opportunity to just ignore him for that turn that concussion was in. So,
no, you still didn't waste the damage from shooting at it because you didn't really have any other good targets anyways.
Yeah.
But
so now, like, the bulwark from this position now gets to just gun down the pig, right?
Well, he might want to use the bulwark to shoot the eviscerator. Because I think if he does that, then he might be able to just kill it without having to worry about melee Overwatch games.
Yeah.
And that pig's low enough, his sniper can probably finish it off. Yep.
And don't forget, your other 2 trenchers still can run around and then throw down.
Oh, right. Your sniper got staggered.
He has that grenade. He should probably just throw that at the pig. Probably use the heal first.
That's why I got that.
But like, something I want to note here is that up until this point, you haven't even used purification fields. Like, you have it on all of these trenchers, and you didn't need it.
Yeah, go there, drop the trench, and take the shot.
Yeah, totally. I did not need it. You're right. 100%. I mean, it's not a big
Nah,
difference.
you
No,
shoot.
no. Just take the shot. Why would you do that? Stay in the trench. Don't let the pig take the trench.
I'm scared of this piggy. It's a very scary piggy.
But see again, look at that. I mean, you knocked it out of range with that attack. No, wait.
Oh, I
You
should
had
have
a
healed.
purification field
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the bulwark, yeah.
But we get the idea. Just that little mod makes a big difference. You can heal up and keep your guys alive. And
I think
even
a bigger
though
deal than purification field for trenchers is, I mean, purification fields is a much bigger deal in like PvP fights, which is what Sensling was building for.
yeah,
I think for this kind of general clearing, though, something that's going to be much stronger is like
Fortified trenches.
well, fortified trenches is like the big one. Fortified trenches is really good.
Fortification tools, sorry.
Or fortification tools, yeah. But like, you know, if you look at other secret techs, something like Guardian Daemon, or if you look at like Phase Walk Field or something like that, like one of these defensive mods that just makes you really hard, makes it much harder for them to hurt you in the first place. That stacks really well with the fact that you're throwing down trenches and have naturally +2 armor for no good reason.
oh
Something like Mark of Dark Sun, or even like, you know, flechettes or rail accelerators or something like that. One of these high value offensive mods will mean that your trenchers will naturally just like, they'll do more damage, kill things in less hits, which frees up more attacks that they can use on other guys. It's just going to kind of generally make things safer for them, just because they rely so much on that Alpha Strike damage. That additional damage that they get, if on turn 1 your trenchers run up and kill 3 units instead of killing 2 units, that's a much safer fight. Just right from that. And all you needed was for them to be bumped up a few damage points.
yeah, cool. I added that to my synthesis notes. The thing about the Damien shell. I think that's very true. That the survivability mods, especially the ones that just like reduce the hit rate of range attacks, is pretty massive. Because most people won't be able to close a distance with a bunch of trencher spam. I think trencher spam will be able to clear them out pretty effectively. Are you ready to jump into commander perks?
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
It should be pretty quick.
All right.
Let's see. How much into this drink am I? Only 2/3? Hold on.
Yeah, you gotta get ready here.
But
so
as far as this goes, my general opinion, I don't think there's anything that's especially good or bad for a build like this. Because it's a low effort build, right? It's a T1 unit with T1 mods. You don't need to. You can, but you generally are low effort on it. So you're just taking the typically good stuff. Veteran's always a solid pick. Energy cache, maybe data repository. Whatever commander loadout you want, that's cheap.
So I think the real decision that you're making here is, so commander loadout, you know, is kind of a decision. Energy cache isn't much of a decision. But if you go up to the tippy top, the background choices, this is where you're really going to be like, this is where you're going to see the most variance, because it kind of depends on what your long game plan is, right? Because if you're going for trencher spam, trencher spam is kind of like a cover for your larger game plan. Trencher spam is kind of like your shield that keeps you in the game
Unless you're rushing.
You get your Doomsday out, or unless you're rushing, which is also one of the options I'll talk about. So,
Sure.
You know, you've got Martial Tradition or Star Union Scholar. If you're say going for Fireburst trenchers, if that's what like your end game is you want to throw Fireburst on all of your trenchers, and that's what's going to win you the game. You'll go Martial Tradition because that'll get you there faster. Star Union Scholar, same deal, but if you're doing something in your secret tech, maybe you're going for Malictors, maybe you're going for, I don't know, Rift Generators.
Promethean Doomsday, does that count? I think it does.
Promethean Doomsday definitely counts. Any kind of Doomsday. Maybe you're going for Total Network. Maybe you're going for Total Network integration. So there's that. If what you're more focused on is you want that kind of early game power, maybe you just really want to get that early clearing down good, or you want to really rush someone, Veteran's really strong, because Devar hero skills are messed up. They were designed by a psychopath.
They're really good, yeah.
I love
We'll get to
that.
that in a bit. But yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, the backgrounds are always just powerful because that's where you get those little tech boosts from. Or you can just go veteran if you want to be solidly always good with low investment. Colony supplement. I think energy cache is the best. Data repository isn't awful, but it's a lot less consistent. Basically, you're trusting that you're lucky and can get a high roll. Military detachment is not unpickable, but that is a hardcore you planning on rushing sort of choice.
Yeah, I think I'd pick that more than I should after talking to more people. It just seems, yeah, I pretty much always pick it, and a lot of people are saying no, you're making the
It's
wrong call.
typically just not necessary for that extra unit.
What I would say, as like a general thing about commander perks, is that so if you're looking at background, what I would say is you're picking veteran unless you have a good reason not to. If you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't have a particularly good reason to pick something else, you go veteran. Veteran's just the best generalist choice. And then if you have some kind of specific plan for what you're doing, you can pick one of these other choices if you like. If you are definitely going to make good use of all of the bonuses that gives you. Colony supplement, same deal, but way more hardcore. You're going energy cache unless you really, really specifically are going to get a lot of value out of one of those other choices, because energy cache is just so good. And honestly, it just feels so good to use too. I don't
Well,
want
you
to call it
also
over.
Devour, remember, so that energy goes a lot further with you than with anyone else.
I think I mean, conversely, also though, like Devar don't need it as much, but it's still just, it's really nice. I always end up picking energy cache, even if maybe I could justify taking military detachment instead, just because, like, honestly, once you don't have to worry about energy for the first 10, 15 turns once, you never go back. It's just, it feels so good. And that's why I never like to call it overpowered, because overpowered gives the impression that I think it should be nerfed. And I don't. I don't want it to be nerfed. Well, not just because I use it, because the game's just so much more fun when I'm using energy cache. It just takes off so much of that pressure, and the game's already like really, really tight economically in a lot of other areas. It's really nice to just have like that extra leeway. It makes things so much less stressful.
Then from there, commander loadout is personal preference, really. The big choice there is, do you want a vehicle or not, which is, for something like this, I probably wouldn't bother, but you could. Bulwark's a good vehicle to get.
Yeah. Bulwark are probably one of the better assault vehicles. I don't want to say the best, because, you know, hover bike and everything.
Lancer.
But I think if you're not going for bulwarks, there's some different arguments about which one you would take, except don't take the spike gun. It's not worth it. Don't even think about it. Just trust me on that.
You probably don't need to save the point. I will make one comment that I generally feel you shouldn't take the close combat pick unless you have at least one other melee unit in your scouting setup. I find if you're auto clearing a lot, having one melee unit makes that unit really vulnerable to dying. You want to have at least two, but results may vary. And if you're doing single player or play by email where you're manualing every fight, that goes by the wayside and it doesn't matter anymore. That's largely a simultaneous turns issue.
Also, again, like, we'll get into this in a little bit, but Devar hero skills are just so nasty that if you go close combat and you also take veteran, I think you'll do okay. Devar melee heroes are really, really scary.
All right. Well, I think we can move on to secret text now. Is there anything else you want to say about the commander background stuff?
Can I just say really quickly on vices, Klepto is the only vice ever worth taking.
Yeah, no, totally, 100%.
I don't know about ever worth taking. I personally don't take vices very much at all anymore, but I think there's one. I think Decadent is the one that there is an argument that it's situationally okay.
Maybe for melee.
If you really, really badly need an additional perk point, which I can't think of why you would need that. But if you really need one more over Klepto, then Decadent's the one to take. But even Klepto, like
Decadent is the hardcore rush one. That's if you go like military detachment,
Yeah.
and maybe like a bulwark vehicle, like you're really going all in on a mega leader,
yeah,
combined with a rush build. So
in
it's
general,
situationally okay. But Klepto, if you're gonna take just one, it's probably Klepto.
yeah, and even Klepto though, like on vices, don't try not to take a vice. Again, you take no vice unless you have a particularly good reason not to. In which case, you take either Klepto or Decadent, depending on how many points you need. Probably Klepto.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I think we'll start off by talking about the Promethean, which was what I had earlier. So we'll just jump back into that stuff. I think it's a really nasty combo, Promethean Devar, with the Trencher spam in mind. Sinsling definitely, I think, showed it off appropriately. Being able to get that, I think it's called Plasma Ray Defense or whatever it is. That immolates a couple targets every few rounds of combat makes it very, very easy to sit back and play defensively. Wouldn't you agree, Ninju?
Oh, shut up. So the big thing about Promethean trenchers is that I don't even think so. Like purification fields is pretty good. I wouldn't say that it's especially good on trenchers, so much as it's just pretty good in general. Trenchers maybe get a bit more value out of it because they can like move around to different units to heal them and then still get their full attack off by moving into
But
their.
you should have fortification tools, which means that you're regenning anyways. But
Yeah.
continue.
The really big thing about Promethean is Promethean's kind of going for the long play, in that there's a really, really, really nasty mod combo in if you get fire burst ammunition and thermal targeting relay on all of your units, that will win you the game. That's just disgusting. That is an absolutely ridiculous amount of damage that you are pumping out every turn. And again, like alpha strike damage, this is a really big thing with manual combat. Is one of the biggest considerations is the engagement turn. What is your alpha strike damage? What is your ability to alpha
Normal
strike?
targeting's at the very bottom.
And trenchers are super duper good at that. Trenchers are like the ideal unit for, engaging and for alpha strike. And so boosting up that damage, especially the like ludicrous degree that damage gets boosted up by having an area of effect attack plus inflicting burning plus getting all those bonus damage effects on burning targets. Like you go from charging forward and removing 3 enemy units in one turn, which can maybe decide the fight if you manage to get that off, because being up 3 units is just a huge advantage. If you turn that into 6 units because you have such ridiculous mods on your units, you just won. You took out an entire stack in one turn if you kill 6 units, and that's entirely possible with that mod loadout right there.
Is this one right here? Rail accelerators was the third? Okay, cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're going all out damage, yeah.
If you're going all out. Rail accelerators, you might want fortification tools or something else instead.
I think I would swap out. I would keep rail accelerators and swap out thermal targeting.
I wouldn't.
Or fortification tools, I think.
Oh.
I would consider swapping out rail accelerators for fortification tools, but I probably wouldn't. I think that's the ideal mod load out there. Is to have just going all in on damage on that, because trenchers, again, they already have so many defensive tools just out of the box that honestly you'll do pretty okay if you just go like glass cannon build on them, because a glass cannon trencher build has glass and some pretty serious, quotation marks.
There's
some pretty big quotes.
Less of a problem for trenchers than any of the other T1s.
No one
else has their level of survivability.
I literally fought Sinsling who used that, not that exact one, but a very similar build against me, and it was really upsetting.
Yeah, I bet.
The other alternative to remember with Promethean, if you're really getting into the late game, is that plasma bomb launchers become available, which turns every one of your basic T1 infantry into a range 9 artillery unit.
I know it's in here somewhere.
I'll let Orange talk about Promethean Devar some too.
You're doing good.
Well, I'll wait on it later, but we're talking Promethean Devour with like a heavy mod loadout. I'll talk about it in more detail later, but I also want to say that I actually think the stronger way to do trenchers in general is a very minimalist loadout. So you really would just be looking at probably fortification tools plus whatever your secret tech T1 mod is. But we can get in a little more detail if we move on to some other secret techs, because as Ninja was saying, Purification Field is a good T1 mod, like it's solid, but it's at its least effective on trenchers, I think, because it conflicts a little bit with what fortification tools gives you in regeneration, and trenchers just 15 health is not a huge deal for them, as opposed to getting a percentage damage increase or getting some of the other more passive survivability boosts that you'll get from some of the other secret techs.
Mm-hmm.
Something else I do want to point out really quick about Promethean, and going back to kind of the Fireburst build. Fireburst turns their attack into a thermal attack, and Promethean does have a strategic op, Incineration Strike, that gives enemy units 3 thermal resistance. That is absolutely
thermal
insane.
resistance.
Or 3 thermal
vulnerability.
weakness. 3 thermal weakness, which is a ridiculous damage increase. It's
30%.
It's more than 30%, like slightly more. 36%?
I wouldn't know off the top of my head. I know it has to do with exponents like that.
No, I just pulled out the calculator and did it. It's roughly 36%, 37%.
Yeah, that's pretty massive.
that is a huge damage boost to put on top of already, having thermal targeting and fire bursts and rail accelerators. Like, whatever 6 units you cast that on, if you are running that build, those 6 units will die. There's just not really a way around it. You have units that can max move and shoot for, God, what is that, like 30 damage or some shit? Maybe like 26? I don't know. It's insane. It's an absurd amount of damage. Absolutely ridiculous. And then and that's before the thermal resistance or thermal weakness. So you come out so far ahead by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And just as a very quick aside before we move on, the other advantage with Promethean is that I think it probably slots in a little better with some of the other Devour units as well. Bulwarks especially, right? If you're talking this heavy firearms mod build, that all slots directly under a Bulwark if you want. Like the exact same mods, so you can kind of flex into having a bit of an Overwatch support if you want. But again, that's a little beyond the scope, I think, of the basic premise here.
Yeah, no worries.
That's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear it and have it in the guide. So yeah, for the other secret techs, I have much less on my notes, and I have a feeling you both do too. Is there one that you'd like to start with in particular?
Well, let's start with what's probably the least effective one, which would be Celestian.
Mm-hmm.
Start with the next one on what's probably the least effective secret tech for this sort of thing, which is Celestian.
I want everyone to know that Winslaya accidentally exited out of the game, and we sat here for like 5 minutes while he relaunched it.
Thanks, Andrew.
Perfect. Awesome.
So if we look at Celestian, the reason that I would say it's probably the least effective one is just they don't have a really solid low tier mod that fits for this. Their first T1 mod is Stagger Resist, which for a single action unit is not that helpful, right? If you get staggered once, it's not the end of the world. You're still going to be able to shoot for your full damage. You've just lost a little bit of movement. And then going up from there, you get Soulbone, which is okay, but not amazing.
Shield of Remorse is a pretty good mod. The thing is that since you have that extra tech cost to get up to it, it's not really... It's still a pretty cheap tech option, but it's not super cheap, and it's basically as good as what a lot of other secret tech T1 mods are going to provide. I'd consider it maybe on par in effect with Guardian Demon or
you're just not getting a lot of
fixed
cheap
block.
effective value, which is what you're looking for to start the trencher ball rolling. You might eventually transition into a more high value mod build, but you want something just in case you are getting rushed, or if your plan is to rush, like you want something right away. And Celestian just doesn't give you that.
Even
There's
then,
really nothing there that you can't replace.
if you go up into like higher mods, like what are you gonna put on your trenchers? Like an
Pacifism.
expensive one, maybe.
Yeah, that's really expensive, really
I
late
think it'd
game.
either be pacifism or the damage reflect. But
Yeah, but like neither of those, I don't think either of those are going to be as good as what other secret techs have to offer either. I
yeah,
don't think.
it's just a generally low value. Not necessarily for Devour as a whole, but for this kind of build specifically. I just don't think Celestian's going to give you a huge value.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
remember off the top of my head if they've got good hero skills for it, but not great
Not
ones. Or
really.
guidance is kind of
Accuracy is
good.
not amazing because you have a lot of actually floating around anyways.
Oh man, are we
Um,
talking about hero skills? Do I need to like
Nah.
go do a shot of vodka or
we'll
something?
we'll
No
get to
need.
that again.
Uh,
So then from Celestian, what's next alphabetically? Herder, I guess, would be one to go for. Again, Herder's another one that it's not bad by any means, but I also wouldn't say it's one of the better ones. It's probably the next weakest in line, actually.
I feel really similarly about Heriter. I mean, Confiscator's okay, but like on Confiscator is one of those one of the rare cases where these mods don't really. Well, I don't want to say rare. Confiscator is one of those cases where because it's a single action attack, this mod isn't as high value as it is
You're
on a lot
not
of
stacking the
units.
energy drain
Yeah.
as much as you would with a repeating attack, although it doesn't stack super high necessarily to begin with, but similarly, it's not a huge high value thing. Siphoners, I mean, they're a good unit by themselves. Action resets are very strong, and on a single action attack, that's nice. But you're not really gonna like be building a ton of siphoners to action reset your trenchers.
That's
Yeah.
better on
Usually.
repeating. Resetting is better on repeating units, isn't it?
Or
Not necessarily, but usually you want something like an artillery unit or a maybe like a ramjet or a sniper unit.
Siphon or Ramjet is such a stupid thing to play against. It made me so angry the like 2 times I had to play against it. So hey, if you play multiplayer with your friends and you want to make them really really upset, build a bunch of Ramjets and a bunch of Siphoners. Just my present from me to you.
That
And I
sounds
mean,
like a
again,
great
some of the other
strategy.
mods down the line, it's the same thing as Celestian. They're not bad. Like, the mods themselves are fine. It's just not really fitting into what you need to do or what you might want to do.
I think more than Celestian,
Go
Heriter
with
has a lot more synergy with Devar in general. Like Celestian, if you're talking about Devar in general, like as you get higher up, as you get like further in the tech tree, it's like okay, there's like some plays. Heriter has some really really strong plays with Devar, which isn't something I'd really say about Celestian. Just it doesn't really involve trenchers.
Yeah, it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Maybe someone can think of something in particular that is amazingly strong, but I think of the two general ways you're going to build out into a trencher spam, neither one really fits with Herita, right? You're not going to just put one mod on everything and call it good because your one mod's not amazing, and you're not really getting a lot of synergy if you go with some really high-end mods on trenchers specifically, or at least no better synergy than if you went with ramjets or bulwarks or something like that.
All right. Sounds good to me. What's
we
next?
talked Promethean, so the Sinumber. Sinumber, on the other hand,
Oh man,
is an entirely different story because Mark of the Dark Sun is amazing on
Mhm.
single action units. That flat 20% damage out of the box on a T1 mod is great. Plus, you're getting a nice cost-effective tactical op. One of, if not the most cost-effective tactical op in the game. With their, I don't remember the name of it, I should, but the damage op at T1.
Embrace Darkness.
Yeah.
Embrace Darkness. So with that one tech, you've solved damage on trenchers, period. You don't need another damage mod on them at all for them to just be hitting way outside of the T1 weight class.
Something I also want to point out really quick about Mark of the Dark Sun is that it gives 4 psi resistance, which earlier we were talking about like armor.
No, it
and
doesn't work anymore.
Really?
Used to.
Dang.
That got removed like in T-Rex or something.
You see, I was thinking that when I saw this, but like I'm looking at the database, which is usually pretty up to date. I'm gonna have to.
The tech tree is up to date, I think. The individual mods.
No, I saw it on the tech tree first, and then I checked.
Oh, yeah.
Then I like double checked it on the.
Yeah, that's not correct. But
Hmm.
anyways, for Cynumbra, this is a really effective way to do. I kind of refer to it as a lightly modded build, where if you're going to trencher spam and emphasize the spam instead of the trenchers, you only want a maximum of 2 mods on everything because you want to minimize your Cosmite investment. And if you go Cynumbra, you put Mark of the Dark Sun, gives you a ton of offense, and then you put Fortification Tools, which gives you boosted defense, free regeneration, easy clearing, and you're just set. You have stacks of those, and you have no real worries for a long time.
There's also definitely like consuming gaze on trenchers.
Well.
I've never really seen that to my knowledge, but like I'm pretty sure that's pretty nasty. Like consuming gaze on trenchers, like you run up, especially if you have the fortification tools, you run up, you put down the trench, you get the regen, plus you get the 20 HP heal plus the damage, and that goes through. It goes through walls. It has 100% hit chance. Like it cannot.
I believe if you put Mark of the Dark Sun, that would activate the Cynumbra Doctrine to be getting free echoes as well. Or am I forgetting exactly how that works? Does that need to be?
I think it needs to be
produced, like
I believe
Adventured and Liquor.
I believe it needs to be Initiates or Malictors or Whispers of Discord. I don't think it works on.
Okay, never mind then.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing to keep in mind too, is you can support yourself with Whispers of Discord summons, which gives you some side damage and a little bit of extra scouting, which is historically something that Devour can struggle with, and is a neat little thing that you can flex in for relatively low investment. For a build like this, Cynumbra is a very strong choice to do a low cost trencher spam.
I'm trying to remind myself how you can get Whispers of a Discord in battle. There's
it's
thing,
echoes.
right?
Go back to the society tree.
Well, so if you want to get a Whisper of
the
Discord,
Shadows Manifest, it's the other one, Initiation Rites. Nope, in the T3 tech, the Faux Doctrine, you have to read it all. It's at the bottom. Your Cynumbra units, nope, other one. Your Cynumbra units spawn an Echo of Despair upon death. So that's why I can't remember if you become a Cynumbra unit from the mod or not. But I think Ninjew's right. I think it needs to be Initiates, Malictors, Whispers of Discord summons, or the Tifo.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
Um,
Anything more on Cynumbra?
Not really.
Yeah, it's strong.
Yeah, I would probably say this is the strongest trencher combo.
I think I might, agree with
But
that.
I lean towards spamming with trenchers as opposed to trying to heavily invest in them. So
the thing is that you can do the Fireburst build with Cynumbra too, and just slot out
Milk the Dark Sun
thermal targeting for thermal targeting. Yeah, it works pretty well too. It's not quite as much synergy, but like I think the Cynumbra build is going to be stronger earlier in the game too. So,
you're covering weaknesses as well in case someone has massive armor stacks, which Devour can occasionally struggle with.
I'd say side damage. I'd say Cynumbra is probably the safer choice, even if Promethean is ultimately the stronger one.
So yes, from Cynumbra we go to Synthesis. I mean, Synthesis always just has the really early value mods and operations. You just put evasion on everything, and then you are able to spam out your ops, and all of your trenchers get extra shields and healing, and it's dirty.
Yeah. I think if you were doing just the light spam, like lightly modded spam, I would say Synthesis is the strongest secret tech for that.
I think synthesis you could do with a mod. That's the difference, right? You could do single mod synthesis T1 spam,
You could
which
do
works with
Guardian.
any T1 to be fair, not necessarily trenches, but
Yeah, because
you
the
would
Aegis
do
shielding up, Aegis subroutines. Aegis subroutines is probably the most powerful operation in the game, considering like how early you get it, considering its cost.
mhm.
It's just such an immensely powerful mod because you get 2 shields for 2 op points, and that lasts for 2 turns. You cast that every other turn. That's such a huge survivability increase. That's I think it's
Yeah,
like
and
23% more
you can
effective
have that up
HP.
to 6 turns pretty early in the game. It's not that hard to get up to 6 or 7 op points by turn 18 to 20.
Yeah, and that's on top of Guardian Daemon Shell, which is an immensely powerful T1.
Or
mod.
20% evasion plus a shield
Prob-
or armor.
Probably if you want to talk like best bang for your buck, it's either going to be Guardian Daemon Shell or the psychic eyeballs that Synthesis gets.
So that
I'm sorry,
is
psychic.
the super El Cheapo version of Transfer Spam would be with Synthesis, but it can scale pretty well too, right? Because if you want to, you can also tack on their damage plus evasion mod early on. That's not too hard to do.
Yeah, if you find
and
yourself like early on in a
hackers get
position, if early on you
hackers
find
get
yourself,
no, they don't. They get shields. Sorry, it's the purifiers that get trenches.
yeah.
Mhm.
Something I want to note is that targeting Daemon isn't as good as Guardian Daemon, but it is a pretty nice offensive mod, and it gives you this really nice option for like, if you've been spamming trenchers, you can put in Guardian Daemon Shell and fortification tools on all of them, and maybe you got to clear one more Cosmite node than you were expecting, or you got really lucky with Cosmite drops, or some crazy thing happens. You have more Cosmite than you're expecting to, and maybe someone's about to attack you with like a really scary army. And
It's a nice filler mod for a tech you already have,
yeah,
or from a tech you already have.
it's super nice because you can just slap that on there. It's some pretty nice value. That's not really an advantage that a lot of the other secret techs have, is you get 2 early mods that are really high value like that out of one tech. And it's kind of like this really nice like emergency kind of, I have too much Cosmite and I'm kind of panicking. Slap that on all of that. It's a good damage buff.
And
Yeah.
the other advantage Synthesis has is it's another one that scales well because you can start going into TNI for your late game, instantly
Yeah.
solved.
Yeah, total
Um,
network integration, amazing.
And anyone who's
So-
not aware, that's the most broken mod in the game. I'm not going to talk about it too much. Just be aware of that.
Yeah, agreed. So, Void Tech, we ready for Void Tech?
Yes, Void Tech is the next one. It's again very nice. Almost all the secret techs have a very cost-effective T1 mod, right? Like that just seems to be a design principle within the game, to give everybody something that's worth getting in the secret techs. So Void Tech actually is interesting because it's not solely the evasion that's strong. You also get that utility of phase walk, right?
Yeah,
Which
that's really
phase walk is very powerful in single action units because it really opens up a lot more flanking ability. And it's strong in ways that aren't always self-evident.
basically
Just reading it.
Phase walk will most moves let you move further. It is taking that mobility advantage that trenchers have that we kind of talked about earlier. That's really, really good for them. You take that, and in most situations, you tell them you get 1 or 2 hexes of additional movement. Sometimes many more than that. Sometimes you can move to hexes that you otherwise would not have been able to move to, like conceivably, like even with sprinting, depending on like what walls you're walking through. Getting that mobility bonus on top of a defensive bonus that is very, very similar to Guardian Daemon Shell. I would call Phase Walk Modulator the best T1 mod in the game. Or at least it's either going to be Phase Walk or Psytech Vision Enhancers.
That's a debate for a different day. I have it on it's high on my list. I don't have it that high on my list. But it depends on the unit. For melee units especially, it's very strong.
I'm going to say universally better than Guardian Daemon Shell. and I think that's very clear and obvious. Guardian Damage Shell, I don't think we talked about it a ton, but Guardian Damage Shell, very good mod, kind of the poster child for really effective early mod. Phase Walk Modulator is just better.
Again, we'll debate this some other time. But yeah, and again, Void Walk, it's one more case of if you want to go El Cheapo, you can. It can flex into the late game. I mean, Void Tech is just strong all around. I think Void Tech is probably the strongest or the second strongest secret tech as a general statement. There's very few weaknesses that it offers, so it's another one that, for something like Void Tech, you can start with this cheap trencher spam of, hey, I'm just going to build trenchers, toss on phase walk modulators, and you can go in a lot of places from there. You can go into your Echo Walkers, you can go into Bulwarks with a ton of mods, you can go even further into trenches if you want. It's just a very flexible and powerful one that for this specific type of build might not be the best choice, but if you want to keep your options open to do anything, it's probably the best choice.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. There's some nice units
really
that go with it.
Really quickly, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Devar Echo Walkers are absolutely broken. Probably the best T2 unit in the game, unless you're fighting flyers.
Yeah.
Or if you like Amazons.
Debatable. Again, conversation for another time.
But it is, yeah. You have the Void Tech part of this is giving you a lot of tools. Not specific to this build, but it is probably stronger than going with the other builds, just because overall the package is stronger.
Yeah, I mean, just because you're spamming trenchers doesn't mean you can't have some other nice things in there to mix things up.
Okay, so let's move on to Xenoplague. We'll probably breeze through Xenoplague a little bit because I don't think there's a ton to say about it. And also,
once again, you get a very cost-effective early mod. The other advantage you get with Xenoplague is it's the best rushing secret tech in the game, bar none, because you're just getting free units for nothing. Combine that with Devour, which is also the best rushing race in the game, because you're getting free resources for nothing from your prospectors.
Nothing is a bit of a stretch, but yeah, you get a lot of. Let's call it stuff that you're paying a very abstract price for.
Yeah. So this is the going all out rush option, where you're going to have free spawn pustules combined with summoned trenchers, and they keep everything very lightly modded. And your goal might be that you never build a unit the whole game. Or if you do, maybe you build like 3 trenchers or something, and you're really just reinforcing in the field with everything. The whole game through.
Pustules are an immensely powerful, cost-effective T1 unit. Trenchers are an immensely powerful, cost-effective T1 unit. You build the amount of trenchers that you would normally build, and you get between like 1 and 8 pustules on top of that, quote unquote, for free. On top of that, you also get the T1 mod Xenoplague Parasite. Pretty good.
Parasitic Symbiosis, I think, is the one, right? No, that's the T3.
No, it's Xenoplague Parasite.
Yeah. Which,
there you go.
Really what you're getting for that, you get a little more status effect resist if you needed it, which you won't as Devour, but mostly it's the just 10 HP on a very defensive tanky unit to begin with.
Yeah.
Is great.
It's pretty nice. Something that, kind of getting into briefly some like game math. The more armor you have, that's like a multiplier on effective HP, basically. And that kind of stacks like exponentially due to math reasons. Getting additional HP kind of early on a T1 unit that tends to start with like less raw HP than other units will. And also, again, trenchers start with 3 armor, and it's really trivial to get them to have a whole lot more. It adds up altogether pretty nicely. I also want to briefly mention Xenografted Muscles. There is a meme build where you put Xenografted Muscles on all of your trenchers. I can think of no conceivable reason why you would do that. Some people say it's really good. I don't understand it. I think they're crazy. I do want to very briefly, from Mr. No, who is a Devar main, who I believe has tried that build multiple times. I just want to verbatim add his input on xenografted muscles, which is, hey, I will stick up for xenografted muscles. It's a good meme, but not the worst build for playing with noobs. And I believe that is all that there is to say about that. Don't bring up xenografted muscles trenchers around me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. The real flaw with this particular build is that you're going all in on a rush, and Xenoplague in general struggles in the late game. If for whatever reason your rush doesn't go through, you're going to have issues transitioning out of this.
Yeah, Xenoplague doesn't really do a whole lot for Devar once you get past the Xenoplague Parasite.
That's why I don't rank it higher on kind of my internal power rankings for this sort of trencher spam, is because you don't have the same exit options as you might have with some of the other secret techs.
Yeah, I was talking with Sinsling earlier. There's Biospore Hyperaggression as a potential like gimmick build that maybe has some value if you're doing that with Devar, and in particular with like trenchers. But it's kind of gimmicky. I wouldn't consider it like super strong. Just I could potentially see a particularly good player getting some good use out of that. But in general rule, Xenoplague Devar, really, really strong at the start of the game. If you don't secure a really strong early advantage, you're going to be pretty unhappy once you're past like turn 20.
All right. Yeah. Awesome. I'm glad that we got to cover all that stuff. I think since we talked so much about mods earlier, we can just skip that part and
the
wrap
only
it up
one
here.
to talk about is just fortification tools, which is a pretty much given. Put it on your trenchers once you get it, and never take it off.
Yeah.
Explosive resistant armor. Explosive resistant armor, not bad.
Agreed. Yeah.
Or the Cosmite.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good
That's
stuff.
it. Cool. Probably you have better choices, but if you don't, not bad.
And you can, if you want to just kind of ignore secret techs in general, you can just do fortification tools and then maybe one of the early firearms mods and get a very similar effect, even if you're not doing secret tech stuff. So that would be the option if you're just doing this to cover your early game and transitioning to some T2, T3 option from Devour itself.
Flechette's is a pretty good early value mod.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining me. I'm glad that you two were available for this.
We did not talk about hero level up perks.
Oh no! All right, quickly, go for it.
Quickly, go for you.
Calm down, Ninjew. So this is one of the things that actually makes or breaks this build. Is not only are trenchers extremely cost-effective T1s compared to their other counterparts, and not only do they really handle a lot of these early mods very well, but Devour hero perks tend to be above par when you compare them to other hero perks.
Tend to be.
Specifically, it's siege. Well, the interplay between hardness training and siege master.
Hardiness training, siege master, armorer, and stubborn are four of the best hero perks in the game, and Devar gets all of them at once.
Yeah, you want stubborn if you're a sniper.
Racial hero perks, you get like one or two really good ones, one or two kind of okay ones, and then like one or two really bad ones. Devar has four very, very good ones and like one kind of crummy one. I guess they also get incentivized, whatever. Juggernaut's not very good. Hardiness training, super good. Siege Master, probably the best hero skill in the entire game. Stubborn.
Yeah.
Your hero gets stagger immunity for 3 skill points. For comparison, Assembly gets stagger resistance for 2 points. So, you know.
And I think it's at the same hero level as well, right? Maybe one level earlier?
It's hero level 4. I opened up the game myself specifically to look at this. Siege Master is absolutely ridiculous. I just want to go on that for a little bit. You get +2 damage resistance to all channels while in cover. You're playing Devar, you have trenchers, you can make cover, you're always going to be in cover. 2 damage resistance is nuts. That's like getting double armorer. And also, not only does it reduce damage, it also reduces status effects from hitting you. You throw on hardiness training on top of that, you effectively have 4 status effect resistance against everything. You're never going to get hit by status effects. That's just how it works. You throw on top of that something like getting shield modulator from Void Tech, or Promethean gets Fallout Protocols, which is pretty good, also gives 1 armor. That's how you really easily get trenchers for no mod investment at all, just ridiculously tanky. Because
you get in +4 between no, armor was only +1, so you get +1 for armor, and then another +2 from the in cover one.
From
so
you get +1 from armorer,
6.
+2 from siege master, and then +1 from shield modulator or Fallout Protocols or
your secret tech option.
Yeah, I think Xenoplague has like a +5 HP something or other. I don't know.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
how
then,
Sensing
just
got all
for,
that armor. Yeah,
for
it's
paying
crazy.
no Cosmite, you have ridiculously tanky units. And then you just throw the Cosmite on top of that, and it's insane. For very little Cosmite investment, you get stupidly powerful units.
Mm-hmm.
This, again, independent of trenchers exactly, but this is why Devar are, top 1, top 2 in the game, and have been for a long time. They just have a lot of very powerful things.
Agreed.
Between their hero pokes and their economy, and they have really solid early game units as well. Really, the only thing that they don't have is amazing mods. But their first really good mod is a specific to trenchers mod. So for this build, that doesn't apply. They have a really good mod for it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I agree. No, that was worth going over. I think I do have to wrap it up here, though. I'm not sure how much more time I've got.
I was just going to be really angry if we went through the whole talk about Devar and I didn't get to talk about how Siege Master's the dumbest shit ever.
Oh, I know. It's fair. It's actually 100% worth getting in there. I'm glad you said that. Is there anything else you guys want to throw in before we wrap up?
Not today.
Nah.
Cool. Like I was saying earlier, I'm really glad both of you had the time. You filled in really quickly at the last minute, so awesome. Thank you so much. We'll see you around.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Have a good one.